The share it with a friend deal, even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
Live your best morning with BOGO breakfast sandwiches only on the McDonald's app. Now buy one bacon, egg, and cheese McGriddles or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles and get a second one free. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one per day. Excludes $1, $2, $3 menu. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Studios of WDBO in sunny Orlando, Florida, here's talk radio host Joe Kelley's Behind the News podcast, where Joe and his listeners and guests discuss the most important issues of the day, plus the crazy and bizarre stories of the infamous Florida man. Here's Joe Kelley.
All right. Y'all better buckle in because things are about to get weird. Things are about to get weird. I have an opinion on a matter that honestly, I should probably just keep to myself, lest I anger everybody in this audience. But you know what's the fun in that? Besides, I have promised you, and I will always promise you, that I will always, always, always be honest with you. I won't ever be throwing out red meat just to get a reaction. I won't argue a position that I don't actually hold near and dear. I won't argue someone else's position. I will only tell you what I believe about things, and then I will gladly take your reaction and comments, and you're welcome to either show me where I'm wrong or disagree or agree or whatever the case may be. But I have an opinion about something, and I'm gonna get straight to the opinion, and then I'm going to back it up a little bit and explain why I'm talking about this tonight. My opinion is this. My opinion is that the Pledge of Allegiance, the U.S. Pledge of Allegiance, is not something that should be required in any setting anywhere in the United States. Be it in elementary school, junior high, high school, at city council meetings, at county commissioner meetings, in the U.S. House or anywhere else. I don't think anybody should be required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Doesn't mean I'm against the Pledge of Allegiance. I just don't think that we should be required to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. To me, it goes against the very principles of freedom of thought and expression that our country was founded upon. Forcing people to recite a pledge is a form of indoctrination rather than a genuine expression of patriotism. I want to pledge my allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands because I love my nation, not because someone is requiring me to do it. You know where they require people to pledge their allegiance to their country? Cuba. They do that in Cuba. They make school children, they indoctrinate school children in Cuba by forcing them to pledge their allegiance to their leaders, to pledge their allegiance to their country. America is supposed to be free. We should be teaching our kids how great America is so that they want to pledge their allegiance to America. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Use the open mic in the WDBO app, and then coming up in a moment here, I'll explain why I'm bringing this up here tonight. I bet John Wick fights a lot in this movie. I bet he does. I bet he shoots a lot and stabs a lot and fights a lot and talks very little. That's how we like our Keanu Reeves. So let me explain to you why I'm bringing up the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, and it stems from something that Florida Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz has been doing since the beginning of this Congress, of this legislative session. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee, and he created a new rule where at the beginning of each House Judiciary Committee meeting, they would all have to stand up and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, Matt Gaetz, thought that the idea is to challenge Democrats' patriotism, and he figured that the Democrats wouldn't go for it. The Democratic members of the panel didn't fall for his trick, though. They didn't take his bait, and they said they'd be happy to say the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of hearings. They did, however, suggest one minor tweak, and this was an attempt to get at Matt Gaetz. The Democrats said that insurrectionists should not be invited to lead the committee in a recitation of the pledge. The implication being that Matt Gaetz is an insurrectionist and that Matt Gaetz should never get to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. So Republicans on the committee were not very impressed. They said, yeah, that's fine. But they insisted that no member would invite criminals to participate in the patriotic exercise. To which Representative Tom McClintock of California said, look, nobody who committed murder would be welcome to recite the Pledge of Allegiance with the House Judiciary Committee. Well, Democratic Congressman Eric Swalwell, you might remember the name from his Chinese spy concubine, explained that, in fact, Matt Gaetz invited a murder suspect to lead the panel in the Pledge of Allegiance. Matt Gaetz invited a guy to recite the Pledge of Allegiance that had committed murder. He was a former member of our armed forces, and he has been accused of murder and wounding another since he was in the armed forces. He had a standoff with the police. This to the point where Matt Gaetz himself has even apologized to the family of the slain man. So Matt Gaetz admits that he was wrong on this and that he should not have invited a murderer to recite the Pledge of Allegiance for the House Judiciary Committee. Maybe the House is a different thing. You know, if you live and work in our federal government, then maybe the Pledge of Allegiance would be something important. But they did take an oath of office. The oath of office should be adequate without a daily Pledge of Allegiance. Now, I know that at the beginning of every class, when I was a kid, at the beginning of every Boy Scout, Cub Scout, Weeblo meeting, I always recited the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a problem with the Pledge of Allegiance. I have a problem forcing people to do it. And especially because I'd like to point out that I pledge allegiance to only one kingdom, and that's God's kingdom. I only idolize one kingdom, and that's God's kingdom. I don't idolize America. And I don't swear my allegiance to any country. I swear my allegiance to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and to his kingdom. And it just feels unseemly to pledge my allegiance to anybody else. Doesn't mean I'm not proud to be an American. Doesn't mean I don't love being an American. It's just that I see myself first as a citizen of the kingdom before I see myself as a citizen of America. 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. All right. Don't forget, if you miss any part of the show, we got a podcast. Look for Behind the News with Joe Kelley. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're in Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the other podcast plays, that other podcasting thing, that one podcasting app, that other podcasting thing. Wherever you get your podcasts, just look for Behind the News with Joe Kelley, and you can check out the show. All right, let's go to the phones at 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. Bennett is in Claremont. Love Claremont. Hi, Bennett. How are you?
Doing good, man. How you guys doing?
Very good, thanks.
Hey, I agree with you on this right here. You know, I kind of look at it with my faith. You know, when I became a Christian, I was terrified. That's why I became a Christian. I didn't want to go to hell. And I think the thing is that when I found out and started reading the Bible myself and found out that it's a love story, man, nobody had to ever tell me to confess my faith or talk about my faith. I think in this country, we don't teach these kids to love our country. And when you fall in love with this country, nobody ever has to tell you. It's not a pledge anymore.
Right.
It's your decree.
Yes,
and
yes.
I think that's the thing that we got to get back to is begin to share the greatness of this country, being honest about what happened in this country, but also sharing the greatness of who we are as a country. And I think that's the same way I felt about my faith. It's when I fell in love with Jesus Christ that I had no problem talking about him or sharing with anybody. And that's my take on it.
And Bennett, I will tell you that I am always on edge for idol worship. I am always on the lookout because it is so easy to fall into idol worship, whether you worship money or you worship your job or you worship another person or you worship a political candidate or whatever it is. I mean, I go way out of my way to make sure that I am not idolizing anyone or anything other than him.
Exactly. That is on point. And that's just the way I feel about it, man. It should be just something in the heart that make you want to stand up for the pledge. It should be something. I served this country in Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and man, look, I've been around the world. I've seen what other countries have to offer. It ain't offering the same thing that this United States is offering. And I pledge it because I love my country.
That makes me happy to hear that. Bennett, thank you so much for your service. Thanks for your call, and thanks so much for listening. Let's go to, my name disappeared here. Oh, let's go to Dave, who's joining us on WDBO. Hi, Dave. How are you?
Fantastic. All right, you asked for this, so now you get it. I understand. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah. I more than understand and appreciate it. Here's where you're confused.
Okay.
You made a statement that said, we should teach people to love this country, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, you haven't been to a school board meeting lately. Obviously, you haven't met the superintendent of schools in Seminole County. Obviously, you're not speaking to children to discuss, like I do every day with my beautiful granddaughter, about what the crap they're teaching her in school.
Well, I will say, hang on.
Wait a minute. Let's get in here. Let's take a look at it.
Dave,
go ahead.
I will let you finish, but I just want to answer your questions. I have two children that are in public schools. I know full well the shenanigans and BS that is being taught to our kids and the behaviors that are displayed in our public schools. Go ahead, please.
Right, because again, I've stood in front of the superintendent and I've asked her the questions and listened to her absurd answers. And I will give you another perfect example. The gentleman just mentioned he was in the military. I was in the military. Okay? 30,000 people got kicked out of the military. Why did they get kicked out of the military? Because the government decided if you didn't get your shots, we're kicking you out.
Wait, what does this have? What does this have to do with the pledge?
It has everything to do with it. The people who serve this country. Your radio station had a general on just a couple weeks ago, and that general was asked, now that this has gone away, should those people be reinstated and go back in the military? He said no, because if you're in the military, you have to do what you're told when you're told to do it, right? What he didn't do was explain to people about the My Lai incident. Because when I went up to become a sergeant, I was specifically told that we are not required to obey orders that are wrong.
In fact, you're supposed to not obey orders that are illegal.
Exactly. And now we know that people did have a reaction to the shot. Now they're no longer requiring the shot, and now they're having a terrible time recruiting people because the truth has come out of all of this. So
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm still unclear what that has to do with the pledge.
What that has to do with the pledge is here are the very people, right, who've given so much to this country, and yet this is how we've treated these people. This is wrong. It's just wrong.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that, Dave. You and I are on the same page on that.
Right. Again, the school thing is very, very simple. Okay, you don't want to do that, but then you and I and the rest of the people who listen to this need to get off our butts and go to the school, listen to what they're teaching people, and go to the school board meetings and challenge these people on a daily basis because it's crap. You know, the stuff my granddaughter is being told is just wrong. I mean, some of it's so absurd as to It's past being fiction.
Yeah, I will tell you,
I feel so bad
you're
for her.
spot on, Dave. And if anybody listening right now does not have a child or a grandchild in public schools, whether it's here in Central Florida or elsewhere, then you may not be aware of just how bad it has become in public schools. But it is bad. I mean, it's bad. It's violent. There's little organization. There's little control with the kids. I mean, we saw the video of that the student that knocked out the teacher's assistant and then pummeled her when she was on the ground. I mean, our schools are in shambles right now. But I would not argue that making them stand up or even sit down and recite rote recitation of a Pledge of Allegiance, nothing about that is going to make our schools better or our children more patriotic. That's something that's going to require a great deal more effort than just reciting the pledge. I'm Joe Kelley. More of your calls coming up at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
This is Stan from Deltona. I don't think anybody should have the Pledge of Allegiance forced down their throat, but nor do I think anybody should have religion forced down their throat. This show kind of sucks today, so I'm going to use my ability to turn you off and try again tomorrow.
Well, and yes, of course, that is your prerogative to absolutely be able to do that. Though I would argue that I am not shoving Christianity down your throat. I simply brought up my faith so that I could explain to you my thought process behind the Pledge of Allegiance. But I understand if you don't want to listen, as sometimes it can be frustrating if you're not hearing your exact opinions echoed back to you by the host of a radio show, and that can sometimes be disconcerting. You only want to hear your opinion and not other people's opinions. It's fine.
This is Stan from Deltona. I don't think anybody should have...
That's the wrong one. Let me play. That was the same guy. Let's do this one.
So it's okay to idolize Jesus, who was just a man who was following God's word, but not God. You Christians have so much to learn yet. It's pathetic.
Whew, there's a lot to unpack there. In fact, I need to hear it again.
So it's okay to idolize Jesus, who was just a man who was following God's word, but not God. You Christians have so much to learn yet. It's pathetic.
So Jesus was fully man and fully God. Jesus is God. God is Jesus. During his time on earth, he was fully man and fully God. And to say that I pledge my allegiance to Jesus Christ, that is God. I'm not pledging my allegiance to a man. I don't idolize a man. I idolize God. And God is Jesus. Hang on, I want to hear that again.
So it's okay to idolize Jesus, who was just a man who was following God's word, but not God. You Christians have so much to learn yet. It's pathetic.
You Christians have so much to learn yet. It's pathetic. You Muslims have so much to learn yet. It's pathetic. You Jews have so much to learn. It's pathetic. The persecution of Christians that you think you can just, leave a message for anybody on the radio saying you're pathetic. I just want you to know, I don't know what your religious belief is. I'm guessing you don't have any religious belief. I would never brand your views as pathetic, and that you would target another religion as pathetic. I mean, it speaks to your narrow-mindedness, speaks to your utter lack of compassion for anybody else, and absolute arrogance in your own viewpoints. I'm here taking calls, asking other people for their viewpoints, and all you do is criticize mine without sharing yours. Safe Touch Security, triple team traffic. Let's check that drive now with PC. Paul Cross, what's up, dude?
Well, we're still dealing with a multi-vehicle crash on the 417 northbound before Lake Nona Boulevard. The right lane is shut down there and still causing a lot of brake lights. Also, more brake lights, I-4 westbound from before Lee to Fairbanks, and on the eastbound side, just after Kelley, you're going to find it lots of slowdowns there up into Colonial. This report sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Your small business keeps you on the go. Progressive Commercial Insurance keeps your policy within reach with their easy-to-use mobile app. Learn more at progressivecommercial.com. From the WDBO Triple Team Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Finally, maybe it'll happen. Last year, the Senate unanimously approved permanent Spring Forward. We're about a week away from Spring Forward, where the country spends most of the year, and Marco Rubio has brought up the legislation again to try to get the United States Senate to pick fall back all the time or spring forward all the time, but stop the springing and the falling back. We'll discuss it.
The Eric Erickson Show, weekdays noon to 3 on WDBO.
Hey, Joe. Bob from Orlando.
Hi, Bob.
Don't new citizens need to recite the pledge? That's probably one place where they should do it, don't you think?
Yeah, actually, that stands to reason. That sounds. I wonder, don't new citizens all have to take some sort of oath other than the Pledge of Allegiance? Is there a new citizen's oath? I've never been a new citizen, but I could certainly see the Pledge of Allegiance at the ceremony for new citizens, and that's probably. And again, maybe I'm mistaken on this, but that's probably one of the things that new citizens have to learn anyway. I mean, that you have to learn, how many senators there are, how many members of the House, what are the three branches of government, and what is the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm sure those are all things in there that have to be learned at some point or another. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but coming up on this weekend, Saturday night to be specific, the 4 biggest venues in downtown Orlando all have major events going on at the same time. I'll tell you about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. Daisy is joining us here on WDBO. Daisy, you're a substitute teacher. How are you?
I am fine. I just wanted to let you know it's the school districts have so totally let these children down, but it's also not all theirs because in the schools that I go to, they do the Pledge of Allegiance, but half the time the kids are hooping and hollering and jumping up and down and cursing.
Yep.
Listen, I am ashamed when I hear these kids that curse like Dutch sailors.
Daisy, oh my gosh, I'm right there with you. I am appalled. I mean, we never would have ever thought about cussing when we were in school, but the mouths on these kids these days, and the teachers seemed like they've got their hands tied. I mean, they're not able to discipline the kids. I mean, it is terrible.
They can't keep subs because they can't keep the subs in the schools because they have no respect for them. I can tell you some of the names they've called me, but and then nothing happens because they're afraid of the kids.
And Daisy, my understanding in Florida is that substitute teachers are not allowed to teach.
Oh, that might be in some districts, but I teach. If I'm going into a class, it's a math class that I don't know about because I only go to certain schools.
Right.
I find out what's going on and what they're teaching,
sure.
and I know. And if it's a math thing, my math is pretty ancient, so I will go to the internet and I will study it. And then when I get into that classroom, I want them to teach. I don't want them to lose the continuity of, where they are in their level of skill. But
have you done that? Have you been a teacher for a while, and have you seen significant changes in the behaviors of kids in schools?
I started in South Carolina in 2001, and the worst decline has been since COVID.
Oh, yeah.
After COVID, there's just such a horrible disconnect. I mean,
there really is.
These kids are making videos and posting them to Instagram, texting each other in different classes. And, but I'm not going to give up because in each class, there's always 2 or 3 kids that really want to learn.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Don't want to learn. I can't force it, but I'm not going to deprive the ones that do want to learn.
Daisy, thank you so much for listening. Thanks for teaching our kids to the best of your ability. We appreciate that. My name is Joe Kelley. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. We do have breaking news, by the way, and this is very interesting, but a verdict has been reached in the Alec Murdaugh trial. Jurors reached a verdict at 6:41 p.m., so about 9 minutes ago. They haven't announced the verdict yet, but the jury just literally got the verdict, got the case this afternoon. So they did not deliberate very long before coming up with a verdict. Most court watchers would argue that bodes poorly for the defendant, that the jurors have already made up their mind. If you're just joining us, we're talking about reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, and as so many conversations do, it has kind of ventured off into different directions.
Hey, Joe, you just said the Muslims are pathetic. Have nothing to do with the Muslim. You just say the same thing like what she say.
Right, and that there's a reason why I said the same thing that she said. I wanted to emphasize her point of criticizing a religion, of calling Christians pathetic. How is that any different than calling Muslims pathetic or calling Jews pathetic? That's not acceptable behavior. It's not acceptable words to use. This is what she said.
You Christians have so much to learn yet. It's pathetic.
It's condescending. It's belittling, and it's just not cool. It just isn't. You can join me at 844-580-WDBO, 844-580-9326, or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Okay, there are four big concerts, big events going on Saturday night in downtown Orlando.
Whoa. All
of them are expected to be like big sold-out crowds. And all of them are walking distance from my place. So
So you're going to all of them then?
Well, 4 events in one night? I don't think so. Plus, that would cost so much money. So the 4 events are these. Blake Shelton at the Amway Center. Pretty Woman the Musical at the Dr. Phillips Center for the Performing Arts. Monster Jam at Camping World Stadium. And Orlando City Soccer versus the Football Club Cincinnati at Exploria Stadium at 7:30. So
I shouldn't go anywhere downtown Saturday night because traffic's going to be a disaster.
I would advise that Saturday night, unless you're going to one of those 4 events, you don't want to be downtown. I will say that the Sunrail train is not only going to be running that day, but it's going to be free on Saturday as well. So it's going to start in the morning and run till just after midnight. And if that is a better way for you to get downtown so that you can make it to one of these events. So out of those 4 events, would you care to guess which one I'm going to?
Monster Jam.
Is that what you think?
You've been to Monster Jam before, haven't you?
Is that what you think of me?
Okay, I'm going to say the opposite. Pretty Woman. You're going to go see Pretty Woman.
You think I'm going to go to Pretty Woman? Is that what you think? Ronald just said the Blake Shelton. You think I'm going to go to Blake Shelton?
Oy, oy, oy.
What's left? Soccer. Oh, you think I'm going to go to soccer? No, I already got tickets for Monster Jam. I'm so excited. So my wife and I are going to go to Monster Jam Saturday night. There still are tickets available. And some of them are pretty affordable. I mean, there's $18 tickets. They're up in the nosebleed sections, but you can enjoy the view up there with me. Just look for me. I'm the tall, skinny guy with a big mouth, evidently. But I'll be at Monster Jam Saturday night because that sounds like a whole lot of fun. And fortunately for us, we don't have to fight for parking or pay for parking or anything else like that because we'll just walk over. In fact, we'll probably scooter since it's Camping World Stadium. That's a little further away. So we'll probably scooter over to Camping World Stadium. A jury verdict has been reached in the Alex Murdaugh trial in South Carolina. We will be standing by for that. Of course, tune in first thing tomorrow morning on Orlando's Morning News with Scott Inez. He'll have additional details about that for you as well. My name is Joe Kelley.
The share it with a friend deal. Even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
Live your best morning with BOGO breakfast sandwiches only on the McDonald's app. Now buy one Bacon, Egg, and Cheese McGriddles or Sausage, Egg, and Cheese McGriddles and get a second one free. Valid for item of equal or lesser value. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid one per day. Excludes $1, $2, $3 menu. Visit McDonald's app for details. Download and registration required.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.